edition of Forever Bristol City podcast. We're in celebratory mood. It's back-to-back wins, clean sheets to boot as well. A final score at home park against the lowly Pilgrims. It finished Plymouth Argyle 0, City 1. I'm delighted to be joined by regulars Ian, Mark and Neil, and a newcomer to our panel who's on lots of social media these days and very impressive stuff too, is Annie Harris. So welcome, Annie. That's lowered the average age down a bit. Young Tom, who's usually on, he actually went down to Home Park, so he's on a coach coming back at the moment.
He's on Catch Coach 3, coming back as we speak.
Catch Coach 3, well, coming back, stuck in stationary traffic. I've tried getting away from Home Park a few times over the years. Not the easiest ground, but there we go. So a win is a win. I watched the game with Neil. He had to put up with me almost falling asleep at times, didn't I?
You did. You got a bit tired.
Yeah, but I wasn't leaning on your shoulder when I was watching it. But there we go. As we normally do, I'll come to Ian first. And Ian, 30-second thoughts. A win is a win, and 2 back-to-back, no mean feat. Yeah, you first.
2 back-to-back wins over the Easter holiday for the first time in 10 years. 1-0 win, 3 points, clean sheet. Better team for 65 to 70 minutes. Highly effective subs at half-time. Astute tactical switch at half-time. 14 points clear of relegation. 15 wins. We need 1 more for our highest in the last 4 seasons per season. 6 to play, 18 points to play for. 3 wins in 4. Another penalty turned down. And great front foot attacking football in the second half. Okay. Question, what's not to like?
Okay. Annie, what did you think at 5-5 or thereabouts? It's a win. I mean, somebody said on Radio Bristol, I was listening coming in here, that it was probably in its own way more impressive than beating Leicester. I sort of get that, but what were your thoughts at 5-5?
Yeah, I was very impressed with the performance. From the second half in particular, we were really good and took the game to Argyle, didn't allow them to settle in the second half, and showed our quality in the final third, which we know we have. And Scott Twine made a massive difference, and just generally a very good day.
Yeah, good day, Mark. Your thoughts on the game? I mean, we hope for the best, but as you often do with City, fear for the worst as well. But it was a performance of some substance, I guess.
Yeah, it was all about good game management because for most of the first half, Plymouth were easily getting behind our wing backs. Once we realised that we didn't need 5 defenders, we changed in the second half, became more compact with a back 4. Williams' aggression and energy unleashed Knight, and with Sykes a constant threat on the right. We easily shut the door on Plymouth. They hardly had a sniff in the second half. All they relied on was Morgan Whittaker, and that was it. City ran the game. The only way that we were going to concede a goal is if we did a stupid back pass or conceded from a set piece. So very satisfying 1-0 win. It could have been more, and we totally dominated after the first 35 minutes, really. So still more work to do. Like to beat the 59 points that we got last season under Nigel, but we got 53, 7 more to go.
I think we could do that. What did you think? Neil?
25 minutes in, it was not good.
Yeah.
The first 25 minutes we were flat. We gave away 4 or 5. I'm trying to be positive. I will come to positive here now. I'm not going negative. But first 25 minutes, we gave away about 4 or 5 corners in the first 5 minutes. We invited a bit of pressure on ourselves. We were a bit flat to start. But then I think there came a point midway through the first half where we just realised Plymouth aren't particularly very good. It was almost like the players realised they're not really that good. And to be fair to Manning, he's obviously recognised that with a treble substitution at half-time for a 0-0 and a change of formation. He's to be applauded. I was critical of him on the forums, his game management, his tactical ability. Last 2 games, I have to say, he's got his substitutions exactly right. and I think that triple substitution threw Plymouth. I think.
Yeah.
Second
bit
half,
like Preston did to us.
bit like Preston did to us. They didn't
Couple of weeks
react,
ago.
and they didn't react to our change in formation. And it was really nice to see us break from midfield. I think Knight playing in that 8, as Ian has spoken about so often before, just the ability to break on teams, I think is a real ability that we don't have when we don't have Knight back there.
Okay. All right. Ian, the lineup unchanged. I think it was for the first time since early February. But, you supposedly stick with a winning formation. Yeah. And Hayden Roberts playing on the left of a 3. But would you have expected anything else or not at all, really, based on the win?
Well, it's the first time since I think it's January the 18th. So it's almost, say, 3 months before he, since he's done that. And one of the reasons was, if you looked at our bench today, even with 5 players missing, we had a really strong bench. And when Taylor Gardner-Hickman's fit, I think he'll have some decisions to make. But yeah, I looked at the side and I think, well, it's the old thing, isn't it? If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I probably would have been critical if he'd have gone down there and made a lot of changes, albeit he made them at half time. I think the James Williams ones was probably pre-planned. I don't know that. But I think I looked at that and I thought, well, if you can beat Leicester with that team, you can certainly beat Plymouth. And I know from living down here that they're having a bad time and a manager's really getting some stick. So obviously they lost Schumacher to Stoke. And initially that didn't go well for Schumacher, but it seems to be getting a bit better for him now. Got a home draw today. And then I thought, right, okay, we can do that. Then we've got, I think it might be an idea to ask if we can play 3 games every week, because we seem to play better for some strange reason when the games come a bit thick and fast. Although you could say that we had 2 weeks off before the Leicester game, and that did us a bit of good. But I think the stronger bench was absolutely key today, because in the second half, it was a different game, and it really was a different game.
Yeah. Okay. Annie, the James and Knight combo in the middle with Knight playing deeper, it was effective against Leicester, and it's good to see him bursting from deep with those surging runs. Yeah. I mean, that's, he seems to have hit on a formula, a bit like Pearson did turn of last season. Do you remember just after Christmas, when we switched style, and it seems to have made a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've always known Jason Knight's probably a little bit more effective in that number 8, and we've kind of been forced to hand a little bit with possibly Twine not being available in that number 10 position that we've had to play Knight. I think Knight himself knows he's probably a lot better in that number 8 position in a double pivot, and it's always nice to have a sort of contradiction with Matty James in there, who's very calm, very composed, not as dynamic, but will help you along the way. And just I thought they've really complemented well with each other. I was a little bit concerned, maybe considering we might have a little bit more of the ball. Didn't actually turn out that way, the first half in particular. But if we have a bit more control than we did against Leicester, maybe we need a bit more of a different dynamic in midfield. Maybe Joe Williams comes back in place of I don't know, take your pick, James or Knight. But it didn't turn out that way. Both absolutely brilliant. And yeah, Jason Knight I think he's got better as the season's gone on, to be honest. Start the season.
He's proving worth the £2 million that we paid for him, isn't he? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And as I said, better in that number 8 position, and we're seeing, I think, the best of Knight, and hopefully, it keeps improving, because that's ultimately the goal for him.
Okay, Mark, Roberts playing on the left. We were calling a couple of months ago for trying out this Roberts-Pring on the left combination, and Roberts slotted in on the left of a 3 when he was on, with Pring pushing on. Arguably, they could interchange as well, because Pringy can play on the left of a 3, although it's not as natural. I mean, do you think sort of Liam's trying a few ideas out with next season very much in mind. And I would say these 2 wins, it's any doubts, and they were probably only in our heads, not the officials, but he's going to be here next season. But that's a useful combo he's got over on that side, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I think today the different thing to Leicester, we didn't have a player with the quality of Fatawu play on that right hand side. If you looked on Friday, Pring and Roberts really had to get their distances right, so there wasn't any space between them. They, for them to exploit. Plymouth just weren't that good, and they were rather on top of each other. And we were going forward. There was a little threat down the left, but it wasn't really effective. We just didn't need those 5 defenders across the pitch. We really needed more energy in midfield to unlock Plymouth, and there was so much space in the second half once we won the ball on the edge of our area that we just got attack after attack. So yeah, it just didn't work today because it needed that tactical tweak, because the game wasn't going anywhere. But we can do that in certain games. I just don't think it'll work. It'll work in every game. Because we weren't playing a free until the Leicester game, so it worked for that game. Maybe or no, you play, or you just play, you put in one for the other. I mean, it'd be interesting once Rob Atkinson comes back. Who does he challenge for the central defender?
That's the thing, and we're talking about.
Yeah. You've got George Tanner in a 4, then it's either him or him. It's between him, Dickey, and Viner, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the right hand side, I mean, Tanner Mehmeti's sort of popping up all over the place at the moment. I mean, as Ian said, when some couple of players, TGH, when he's back, he's obviously, does he walk straight into the side? Probably not. But I won't say we've got an embarrassment of riches, but
we're a mid-table championship side, aren't we? Even with those players coming back in to the mix, we don't score enough goals. We just don't. If we've scored more goals defensively, even when we were going through our bad patch,
nobody's given us a beating.
Nobody's
really, not even Ipswich when they still 1 goal margin against
1-0 at home and 3-2 away.
Yeah.
Nobody's given us. Defensively, we've been. I think we're about the 6th or 7th best team defensively. It's obviously at the other end that the problems start and end. And for me today, Tommy just didn't do it that first half, did he? I don't know whether he's had a sickness bug or
do you think his mind's elsewhere?
Who knows? But I mean, I wasn't surprised to see Naki come on at half time for him.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. Ian, we as we all of us have said, Plymouth started the game well. Overall, I thought they were poor. The number of times in between my dozing off, which I did, the number of times I was saying they're poor, they're really poor. But up front, I mean, those 4 corners didn't really come to much, although Hardy was wide, Whittaker had a shot saved. I mean, they're 2 players. I mean, if Plymouth went down, have we been linked with those? Could we afford those? Would they make a difference, either one of those, to our side? And does Whittaker fit the bill of the big man? Ian?
I don't know about the big man, but he could certainly take up one of the wide roles in the 4-2-3-1. But he's big enough to play down the middle. He doesn't normally. Hardy does that. Hardy's a player we looked at when he was at Rangers. And Whittaker we knew about and looked at, but we didn't go. And I'm surprised at that, because I think he's an absolutely class player, and albeit he's playing in a not very good side. I mean, Hardy never got a look in today against Dickey and Viner, in all fairness. After the first 25 minutes, he more or less disappeared. And there was one when one of our central defenders flicked the ball onto him in the second half, and I thought, oh God, here we go, he's going to go through and have a shot, and the ball got stuck under his foot. So going back to what you said about Tommy, no, he's not in great form. I mean, I thought he was better in the first half against Leicester, but Manning's already said that he wants a 9. So as I said on I think the last pod, what happens to Tommy if we sign a 9 and we're only playing one up top in whatever formation we play, whether it's a 3-4-2-1 or a 4-2-3-1 or whatever? What happens to him? And that might have got into his mind slightly, but he's a goal scorer, and goals seem to come in patches. Andy Vyman was like that, wasn't it? When he'd not score for 7 or 8 games, and then score in 8 games on the trot. So, well, we'll have to see about that. But overall, I think the subs were justified. The James Williams one, I think, was a pre-arranged substitute. The other two, I think they were just based on getting some energy out there. And I think Sykes and Wells definitely did that. And Wells is smaller than I am, but he got stuck into those centre halves, and they knew they were in a game.
Yeah,
and
he took one for the team. He took one for the team the other week as well with a foul, didn't he? So he's a good.
Naki's
pro. All right,
Naki knows all the dark arts, Dave. I mean, he's really he's streetwise.
Let's get into the action. First with you, Annie. Mehmeti. I mean, he's showing the manager's faith in selecting him, and early on, after we weathered, I hardly call it a storm from Plymouth, but there was one occasion where he had the ball on the edge of the box. It wasn't a penalty, and our famous Mr. Stroud infamous Mr. Stroud was there. And he could have taken a tumble then and gone down, and it would have been a perfect situation for Scott Twine to take a free kick, wasn't it? He should just fall over, yeah?
Yeah, he should have done that with hindsight, but I'm sure he would have been arguing, I've got the quality to go and produce something in that situation. Why should I let Scott Twine have a free kick? But yeah, I thought Mehmeti generally was a lot better. Against Leicester, he was a little bit in and out, but he was a lot more involved. And actually, when in the second half in particular, when we had more space going forward, he took a couple of shots, and that ultimately led to our goal as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, I thought Mehmeti was far better in that scenario. Maybe he should have possibly been a little bit more streetwise and taken a fall. But with the referee Keith Stroud, nothing guaranteed with him. No. Probably given something for Plymouth.
He doesn't like us, does it? Well, he doesn't appear to like us, but there we go. Okay, let's look at the only real chance that we had in the first half, Mark, and it was a good one. I mean, James, a good through ball to Twine, little dink, and Cooper, good save. Yeah, Mark, did you think that was it was worthy of a goal, wasn't it? Yeah, and just fine keeping by Cooper kept it out.
It was a great pull by James. He chipped it over the top of the defence, and you want to see your attacking players make a late run, and Twine did that brilliantly. Took the ball down really well. Cooper was on top of him quickly. He tried to flick the ball over, and he palmed the ball over the bar. Don't think there was much more that Twine could do, having brought the ball down. To hit the ball, to keep the ball low, he just wasn't possible. So he tried to flick the ball over his head, and he just reached out and got a long arm to it and pushed it over the bar. But it was a great delivery by Matty James, a beautiful ball. And I really want to see a goal at the end of that. Unlucky.
Yeah, what did you think of that, Neil? And interesting as well, Twine. Despite his lack of minutes for us, and obviously. He's one of the most foul players, if not the most foul player in the division. Is he starting to talk about that chance, and is he starting to convince you that he's worth paying for, although not for £5 million?
Well, I think the main issue is that Burnley know that they've probably got a foot in the Championship next season. I think if they were staying in the Premiership, they wouldn't see Twine as a Premiership player, and they may be willing to actually concede somewhat on a transfer fee. If you know that you're coming down to the Championship, he's going to do you a job in the Championship, and he's already at the club. So it wouldn't be. It's one of those awful things about parachute payments, isn't it?
Yeah.
That enables clubs to keep hold of the players that they want to keep hold of when they get relegated to the Championship, and in another way as well, cherry pick the list of the out of contract players, or put cheeky little bids in, or whatever for it. I know that. In the past, Burnley have been very interested in Conway, for instance, and you could see Conway going to a team like Burnley coming down for a couple, 2-3 million or whatever, easily in that type of situation if he doesn't go north of the border. But that sort of run in, that sharpness, he's going to take a little bit of time. He was still a little bit on the periphery today. But what he does, when he's on the pitch, you can see the other teams focus in on him. They're often double teaming him and actually putting their emphasis on him. And by doing that, it gives the space to the other players.
Yeah.
And
which is almost Alex Scott-like, isn't it? Just the way when he got a sandwich once between two of their players, he was bursting forward, and that's where he got the free kick just by falling over. But that was very reminiscent of Scott.
Yeah, with Leicester on Friday, Chowdhury was like man for man in him and just following him around the pitch. And he's obviously a focus of attention. They're obviously told beforehand, right, shut down Twine. So if as a team you're shutting down, okay, you're double teaming him or you're on him, right? Well, that frees up the space for other players. Okay. And we were perhaps a little bit more effective against Leicester with Twine than we were today in patches, because Leicester were a better team than Plymouth today, particularly in the second half.
Okay, here's an interesting one, Ian. I'll ask you this. I'll ask each of you. Just picking up on what Neil said about Conway possibly going to Burnley. Somebody offered you Scott Twine plus Hano Masengo for Tommy Conway. Yeah, would you take that? Bearing in mind that I see Masengo, well, nobody's seen him because he hardly ever plays, but is there a player in there that maybe Manning's coaching could get something out of it? But would that be a decent bit of business? Highly unlikely, but what do you think?
I don't think so, Dave. I think the most likely scenario with Burnley is if Josh Brownhill was sold, and rather than give us 20% sell on, then
I think Brownhill's contract is up at the end of the season.
Brownhill's out of contract, I think.
Right. Okay. Well, that might bugger things up. I suppose. Well, it depends. If a Premier League club want him even as a out of contract player, I possibly it could. And Burnley have shot themselves in the foot if that's the case. But they haven't got an option or anything, have they?
No,
I don't think so.
That'd be that's interesting. So leaving that aside, it's like everything else. I've already said my view, and I haven't heard anybody from the club or anybody else contradict it. Is that there's no money to spend unless we sell. So we could be bartering on a number of things, but I wouldn't particularly want Masengo back. Although I think he's the sort of player Liam Manning might get a better tune out of, in the same way that he's got a better tune out of Mehmeti. And right. You can't knock the way he's playing at the moment as that second 10. And the Plymouth fans were all raving about him. So I don't honestly know, but we might have to do some fancy dancing if we're going to bring in the players we want, because the ones that I know we're looking at are going to be expensive. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but then, it's like, I'd like to buy that BMW, but oh shit, I've only got a budget to buy a Ford Fiesta.
Well, it's exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah. All so right. When you got people, and there were a couple on the pod you did with Richard Latham and Chris talking about 15 to 20 million.
Marquee signings, not one player, but 3 or 4 or 5. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
The money's not there to spend. Unless we sold, if we sold Cam Pring and Tommy Conway for 10 million each, yeah, possibly.
It's not going to happen.
But I can't see that happening.
Not that money. But let me ask Annie that question.
There we are.
Forget the Masengo thing. That was a bit of a red herring. But Scott Twine, Tommy Conway going the other way. Would you see that as decent business?
I think I would. Yeah, definitely. And then if we know we're looking at targets and in that striker position, aren't we? So possibly, I think a player like Scott Twine is absolutely crucial to this Liam Manning system. I think without that, we don't really function. We are 10 times better with a player like a Scott Twine. Even Argyle commentators mentioned it today. The pockets he picks up. No disrespect to anyone in our squad, but no one is picking that sort of space up. And as someone else mentioned, that leaves spaces for Mehmeti, the likes of Sykes, likes of Cornick. So yeah, I would honestly, if there was some sort of deal that was appropriate for us, I would.
And do you agree with me that those spaces and just certain aspects of his play are a little bit Alex Scott-like? Yeah.
Yeah, because teams do target Scott Twine. They look at his reputation and they'll look at the fact that he's playing for Liam Manning, and they'll look at the fact that he's probably going to be their main threat, and completely ignore the fact that we have the likes of Mehmeti and Sykes who are just kind of waiting.
Yeah, no, I mean,
waiting for something to happen.
Embarrassment of riches. Right, a couple of things on the text feed here. Roger says, so where's the Scott and Semenyo money gone if we have no money? Well, actually, just look at the accounts and how much we've lost over recent years, and the fact that our owner wants us to be a sustainable football club. That does that one. And obviously, I must have been on the silly sauce for me to even suggest Hannah and Masengo coming back. But there you go. Mark,
I can't see his. I mean, I can't even see why Burnley would want Tommy Conway. I mean, I think Vincent Kompany would probably get better value elsewhere. You know, he did great, shopping over in Belgium last year. And he'll even, I mean, he's even got Wout Weghorst out on loan at Hoffenheim at the moment. It was also at Man United last season. So he's still their player. So they can, they got liquidity in him. So I think he could do far better than Tommy Conway. I'm, sorry, Tommy, but I just can't see it.
Okay. No, well, Tommy, yeah, right. Interesting. Okay. So start the second half, getting back to this afternoon's action. We screamed penalty when we were sat there on my sofa, 1.5 meters apart, as Melanie was saying to Amy after you'd gone. We weren't snuggled up there with chocolates from some very expensive chocolate shop.
Yeah. I'll believe you.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that was a penalty when Sykes got pushed.
Sousa pushed him in the back, and he went down. I mean, what have we got to do to get a penalty?
He's got a bit of a reputation, hasn't he, for going down too easily? I think refs are a little bit cute nowadays. I think in the same way that managers and coaches do their due diligence, I think refs do a certain amount of due diligence as well, because the way that Naki throws himself to the floor or Sykes throws himself to the floor, often, it's a difficult one. We spoke on Friday about there and
we had incidents,
the shorts being touched. I think in the Premiership, that's a penalty.
Because there's a replay.
Scrutinise it. All right, let's come to each of you on that.
It was definitely a penalty, but there's no VAR, so you thought
it was a penalty, Mark. Ian, did you think that was a penalty when Sykes got bundled? Yes,
but I agree with Neil. He went down a bit too easily.
All right.
I think if he'd have tried to stay on his feet, possibly got a shot in, he might have got the pen. But yeah, it was a pen. The kid pushed him in the back. Simple as that.
Yeah. Annie, a penalty in your book?
Yeah, I think so. But again, I agree with Ian. It might be, from the referee's point of view, looks a bit soft with players going down a little bit too easily.
Exactly. Not long after that, we had a good little move where Williams, who come on as part of the triple substitution, put Mehmeti away. He set up Twine, knocked it wide. We'll come on to the goal. I'll let each of you give your view on the build-up, because it was a fine goal after 56 minutes. You first, Ian. Thoughts on the goal? Was it Naki's? I thought it went in off the other bloke's head.
No, the other defender headed the ball more or less onto Naki's head,
right,
and it went in. That's as I saw it. But yeah, I think so. I mean, the Mehmeti did his usual. I'm going to come in and shoot on the right foot. Nice curling effort on target. Keeper's made a good save, palmed it out. Sykes has got in on the end of it, on the angle. He's hit it down into the floor. Fair play to the keeper. Really good double save. He's got his hand to it, but he could only palm it up. And then Naki's, fair play to him, nice and brave, thrown his head at it and jumped. I was surprised that Stroud didn't give a push, but I don't think he did push the kid. I think it was a fair contest for the ball, and the lad, it flicked off the lad's head onto Naki's and went in the net. So, good goal from me, and well done, Naki, for being there and showing the effort and the bravery to get on the end of that, because he could have easily got the kid's head in his face.
Yeah. Annie, we've heard lots of talk about fast front foot football, but the build up to the goal was just that. It was the pace coming, if I recall it correctly, pace coming from deep of Knight, releasing it to Mehmeti. I mean, if we do more of that, we are going to score more goals, aren't we? There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and it's not just the build up from Knight, it's actually him showing the endeavour to go and win a 50-50 in midfield, and then after that we have so much space in midfield to go and exploit it. And yeah, it's really good. It's really good to saves from the Plymouth keeper Michael Cooper. But yeah, I've been fairly critical of Mackie Wells, and I'm sorry, one goal wouldn't particularly change that. But yeah, it's good to see him make an impact. And yeah, I agree with you, David. We have to show that intensity when we get the ball. A lot of possession teams, they kind of pass it around for the sake of it. Leicester did it on Good Friday. We have to show that intensity when we get the ball. And yeah, we did exactly that. And players like Jason Knight driving through midfield helped that.
Excellent. Mark, your thoughts? I saw your little hand go there up on the screen.
Little hand.
Little hand there. Yeah.
Yeah, we played with a lot more purpose in the second half. Some of our passing in the first half was quite poor, but it was far better in the second half. Knight bursts through the middle, plays it across to the left-hand side of the box. Mehmeti comes in, does his usual 15 touches. No, he was really good, actually. He worked the ball across to give himself space. Cooper beat it out. Sykes followed it in, and the ball's forced up. I think he gets a slight touch with his hands, Cooper, as the ball goes up in the air. And Wells challenges Gibson, who's a centre-back, and it comes off Gibson's head just flicks off of Wells' head and into the back of the net. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And good night.
You commented on Cooper, the keeper, a couple of times. I mean, what's his background? I mean, is he the sort of we talk about competition, and if Plymouth are in the Championship, then he's not going to drop. But if Plymouth drop down, is he the sort of goalkeeper that would be happy playing second fiddle to Max? And what's the background on him? I don't know enough about him.
He's a youth player there. He's been exceptional there for a number of years. He's been a standout keeper, absolutely fantastic. He's had a couple of really bad knee injuries, which have set him back, and that's been the issue. He probably would have moved by now, but throughout the game, and I know we'll come to some of the other potential goals later on. Throughout the game, his shot saving, his positioning, all the rest of it, absolutely superb. He's out of contract summer next year. They go down. They have to sell him this summer. He's 24. He's going to move on. Him and Whittaker, I can't see it. Either of them being there next season.
Lazio made a bid for Whittaker in January, apparently.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting whether Foster's still there next week, because they've got 5 cup finals the way they're dropping.
Who's it? Argyle?
Yeah, Ian Foster, is it? But for me, I mean, going to the thing, I'm just looking at some of the stats. In the first half, we had 47 attacks, 9 of which were dangerous, or they classify as dangerous. So 47 and 9. Second half, 57 attacks, 34 of which were dangerous or qualified. Now, I'm not a big stat person because I like to actually watch the games rather than actually get too hung up on XG or whatever. But that just showed a different intensity that we played in the second half. I think we realised, like I said, after 25 minutes, they're not really that good. We should be doing a bit better here and that.
And he made those changes.
And those changes at half-time allowed us to become more progressive and allowed us to get further up the field and do what we did in the second half, really. But, yeah, I mean, second half.
Well, we had other chances. I mean, Pring to Sykes, save. Dickey to Wells, save. Good little through ball that was from Rob Dickey. And Max, he saved one from Whittaker. But, as I say, Plymouth never really didn't seem to raise their game at all, and you'd have to fear for their manager's future, because they were poor.
But they had. I've got 2 colleagues that were the Plymouth season ticket holders, and they lost 3 loanees in January. Not only Finn Aziz, who went up to Middlesbrough, but a couple of the others that went back. forgive me, I don't know their names at the moment, but they were 3 key players for them in the way in which they were actually feeding. Mark will probably come in looking at his face there, but whoever the 3 are, one of them's been disease. But the other 2 they've lost are equally have caused them because they're just relying on Whittaker. And if Whittaker doesn't do it, who else is there in the team that's going to do it for him?
No, that's true. Ian, Mr. Stroud, he produced the second yellow card for foul on Tanner by Devine, a lone player, one of Alex Scott's under-21 buddies. What do you think of Mr. Stroud overall today? And, was that it was a second yellow card. It wasn't a sending off offence by itself, was it?
Oh, well, it was the 2 yellow cards the lad got were both justified, so he had to get a red. Before Keith Stroud overall, well, Keith Stroud was Keith Stroud. Like I said, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised he didn't give the penalty because I think some referees, I think the guy on Good Friday bottled it because we were playing Leicester, top of the league. Obviously, I don't know that for a fact, but can I just make a couple of quick points that might merit some discussion? We've got the 4th best defensive record in the league, which I think for a team that's currently in 12th place is a really good achievement. And people are going to start saying, well, when Scott Twine plays, City don't lose because we played 3 games with him and we picked up 7 points out of 9. Yeah. So I think I need to see a lot more from him. I think he's capable. I don't think he's 100% fit in fire, and he's a lot better than he was, obviously. But a bit of rest and go up to Sunderland, who got absolutely battered today.
Yeah.
But if you look with Super Sammy Smoldick scoring 2 and assisting another one, and I'll get something out in Tesco's if he's still at Blackburn next season. But
is that Sammy?
Sammy, yeah. But yeah, I think I think he's capable of it. You look at some players and you think, yeah, all right, you're not quite there yet, but I can see you getting there. Other players you look at and you think, nah, mate, you haven't got it. But people can change their minds. I mean, I've often criticised Mehmeti. Well, he's been very inconsistent. He's been very weak. But the last couple of games, you look at him from the opposition point of view and think, oh, Christ, take him off. I don't want to play against him. And he's beginning to look a player. And I said a long time ago on the poddy and on Twitter, I'll accept Liam Manning's a decent coach if he can get a tune out of people like Mehmeti. Because before that, I think he would have been on his way out the club.
Yeah.
But Manning rates him. The kid said after the game against Leicester, the manager showed a load of confidence in me, and he believes in me. So he's made me believe.
And apparently he goes back. And apparently he goes back to do extra training as well. I seem to have read somewhere, that he's.
Oh, he said Manning said he's football mad. He's like football obsessed. Yeah. So some players aren't. They can't wait to get home, can they? Some people, but I suppose it's like with work. But okay. I mean, he's really impressed me more than I always thought there was a player in there. But to call him frustrating, and Manning said the same thing. He said he frustrates the hell out of me. You go from wanting to sort of cuddle the bloke to wanting to strangle him. But perhaps that's wingers. Perhaps they use this word mercurial, don't they? And perhaps that's the kind of kid he is.
Mavericks, mercurial, call it what you will. Annie, 6 games to go. We've hit the 15-game barrier. I think we are going to get above that between now and the end of the season. It's been said, and statistically it's correct, that we've probably got the easiest run-in based on whatever criteria somebody made that assessment going in between now and the end of the season. I mean, we're 5 points. I was going to say we're 5 points off Hull in the single-digit positions, which is 9th, but they have got 2 games in hand on us. What's an acceptable points tally for you now with the remaining 6 games and looking at who they're against, and the fact that we got to finish the season with a flourish to stimulate season ticket sales, because there's no numbers come out yet, but people want to see some goals. And if you look at the home opposition, Blackburn, Huddersfield, and Rotherham, we got to be looking at winning all three of those, I'd say. Yeah. And if we won them by 2 or more goals, that would give people a bit of faith back, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. It's not only just about season ticket sales, though. I think for this squad, they need a bit of confidence going into next season, carry on the momentum that hopefully will be, pre-season and whatnot. So that would be nice. And yeah, the fixtures do look quite favourable. However, in the Championship, well, Blackburn and Stoke in particular do have some good players, and I think both are underachieving quite a lot. So you can't underestimate them and kind of go, oh, we should be winning that game quite comfortably. It's just not how it works. And also, they're all playing for something. Well, Rotherham might not be, but it's still in a pretty tough situation, all of them. So yeah, I'd say about 11 points if we could.
Which would put us on what are we on now? 53. That puts on 64. Is that
just under 2 points a game? But again, we know with what City are like when a team comes to Ashton Gate and just kind of sits in and holds a good structure.
Yeah, because those sides Rotherham are gone. Those sides that come in, the Blackburn and Huddersfield, they'll view a point at Ashton Gate as something key in their battles for survival, because it looks like probably, QPR look well away from it now, but it probably looks like any 2 from, I'll say 5 clubs joining Stoke down there. Mark, what's an acceptable outturn for the remainder of the season? It seems a bit remarkable that we did an end of season review, yet we've followed that end of season review podcast, which got mentioned on the Sky coverage on Good Friday. We followed that up with 2 wins, 2 clean sheets. Are we capable of breaking 10th, maybe even 9th?
I think 62 to 65 points would be great. Want to exceed the 59 points at a bare minimum, so that means 2 wins. On paper, the hardest game that's Norwich away. Sunderland they've only won 2 out of the last 9.
They can't be that bad a game.
Yeah, their interim manager has just said that the performance was unacceptable. To get beat 5-1 at home. I think Jack Clark came on as a sub. I think he's been injured, but they just seem to have unravelled. It was a major mistake getting rid of Tony Mowbray and appointing Michael Beale. Crazy. Look at Birmingham did the same thing. Watford have done it regularly. I think we can win. We could win 2 out of those 3 home games. I think Blackburn would be the hardest one, so that gives you 7 points. Because I think there is something on the Huddersfield game for them. Definitely nothing for Rotherham. They might be playing some kids because they'll be relegated in the next game, won't they? Mathematically, that's for certain. And then we've got Stoke away, and we won our last 5 there. So Stoke. And the thing with Stoke is Alex Neil he signed a huge number of players. So they just had a huge turnover of players.
Is he still in charge there?
No. Before we got the sack,
Schumacher.
Turnover.
Yeah.
He just, but Neil was allowed to sign a huge number of players at the start of the season. So they should be doing better. But we've done brilliantly there, haven't we?
What's the highest we've had, Mark, or anybody in this? Because this is our 9th successive season.
8th.
No, not the highest points total that we've had.
Yeah, I think that was it in
2018-19. I'll tell you, 70. 7-0.
In 18-19, yeah.
Was that 18-19?
Yeah.
18-19 was better than 17-18.
Yes, it was. We got 11 home wins in 17-18. We only got I think we only got 8 in 18-19, but we got 11 away wins, which was our best for about a century. We hadn't had as many away wins as that since we got promoted we were in the first at the start of the first division before the First World War. So yeah, I think we're on 9 home wins this season now. Is it 8 or 9? So
70 is the best. 70 is the best, and then second is 68. Is that right?
That would have been in the 17-18 season when we finished 11th.
So
we were second.
70 is the best. 67 in 17-18 is
67
the
was it?
second best,
Okay.
That was
and then
11.
the lowest is 51. That was in
So
2021.
realistically, then, if we ended up with 66 points, which on 53, bit of a big ask.
I can't see that.
No, 62 points.
That's 3 wins.
They've got
I
to
think
be
we
able
could
to
get
throw
3 wins out of the
something-
last 6.
Yeah, 3 wins out of the last 6. They've got to be able to throw some positive communication out there and say, this is our best season. You wouldn't think it. This would be our 3rd best season in 9 years.
Well, the home wins, can we confirm, are we on 9 home wins at the moment or 8? Our best returns.
Hang on.
Our best
Hang
return
on,
since
I'll-
our best
Hang on,
return
I'll
since
tell
we
you.
came back up was
9 home
2017.
wins.
No, we won. Hang on a minute. What have we done? I'm just looking at some stats here.
Meanwhile,
I've got it by manager. Hang on a sec. What we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That was 13 before we won the last 2. We won 15 now, haven't we? But
Right.
at home,
those
it's
of
going
you
to
that are
be
watching in black and white. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move
the
on.
rest
Look,
of
we're
all
gonna-
behind the
We
green.
won 8. Have we won 8 or 9 games at home?
I think it's 9 wins at home.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
we're on course to beat our best return if we win our last 3, which is 11 in 2018-19.
Well, that'd be
Sorry,
good.
2017-18 season.
I'm trying to put a positive spin on things because that's
Yeah.
what we need to do going forward. All right. We talked about Sunderland. We talked about the remaining fixtures. Neil, and we're all going to talk about this. I want to hear from Anish as well. Ian, well documented. I hear from you on this as well. And obviously, Mark. On that podcast that I did with Richard Latham and Chris, yeah, I mean, Richard was saying you don't sell your best players if you want to achieve something, but you can't stop players going for 4 times the money. Yeah, we've talked about players coming back today from injury. Yeah, that it's going to create selection problems, the right ones to have, right? We can't. Ian said we can't buy unless we sell, and we've got 3 players that are already with us, although they've not played for us yet, which is Max Bird. I think that's going to be a good signing. Yeah, Stokes and Murphy, maybe the last one who's got
No knees.
no knees. How are we going to progress? Because we've said, we've not had these marquee. We're not going to have marquee signings. We've got no money to spend. Are we the perennial? We got another season of mid-table, maybe.
I think we're just, as a club, we started to touch on this on Friday, didn't we? In the way, and you touched on it with Rich Lee. When we talk about terms like identity or what sort of club are we? Are we a club that builds or are we a selling club? Well, pretty much every club in this division that isn't a parachute payment is going to be a selling club if the price is right. So that in itself doesn't. What we've got as a club is we've got these Premiership facilities that cost an absolute fortune. And because they cost an absolute fortune, our operating costs are so high. Because our operating costs are so high, we're kind of maximising out our turnover. We couldn't get much more turnover than where we are at the moment.
No.
What are we on at the moment?
18.5 is the last set of accounts.
But in terms of 23,000 capacity,
Well, it's our highest average attendance for 40 years.
So we're not going to suddenly increase turnover by 10 million. At the club, the only way we're going to do that is by doing what we're doing, which is selling players, bringing them in, selling players. The problem that we have is we demonstrate a lack of ambition. I am sure that a load of those players that have gone on and maximise the wages and everything elsewhere, what Richard Latham was talking to you about, a number of them would have liked to have got to the Premiership with Bristol City. Yeah, but you have to sell the dream to a certain degree. You have to sell the ambition. You have to say, this is how we're going to do it. Stick with it. Stick with the process. If we don't get there, but we don't. Every time we're
not brave.
we're not brave as a club.
But then we've been brave in the sense that we've spunked away on losses.
Well, we've
70, 80 million in the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, but what we do is we're almost like
More than that.
death by 1,000 cuts, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, we are slowly hemorrhaging money by standing still in this division, and eventually, that tap will be turned off. And whether it started already, whether Steve Lansdowne is saying, I'm not willing to chuck in 20 million this year, I want to call it 10 million, and thus the money isn't there or whatever. But eventually, there will come a point where we won't be able to sell 35 million pounds worth of players.
Yeah.
The well is dry in relation to player sales, but you've still got these massive overheads at the club. And then if you've got an owner that's unwilling to actually chuck in the money, albeit...
But he's chucked in a lot, so he said enough is enough.
Well, it's like a Spanish lottery then, isn't it?
Ian, we've got, Tommy Conway, his value isn't what it was after that goal he got against West Ham. He's having a poor end of season. So we're not going to max out on him, but he's got to go because we'll max out on him even less next year because he's out of contract in the summer. You've also said to us that there's a group of the under-21s that are, if you like, moving on. Quite a number of those are going to be moving on in the summer. The under-18s coming through, yeah. You've said, and I know you correct me if you haven't said what I've said you said, but we can't buy unless we sell. What if somebody comes along in the summer and says, I like the look of Jason Knight, yeah, I'll give you 5 million for him. Because if you take Knight, Conway and Pring as potential sales, yeah, that could raise on current value, I'm saying Knight more than what we pay for him, 4 million for Knight, 4 million for Conway and 3 million for Pring. That's a lot of money. But would you sell Jason Knight if the right bid came in to help Liam build his side, or is he going to build his side around Jason Knight? Or do we need to be bolder?
Just
a lot of questions there.
Any player down there is available for sale at the right price. So this is the thing that Richard can't get his head around. It's not like it was years ago where they can earn a little bit more, and sometimes you'll get a player come down from the old First Division. I remember Norman Hunter coming here and saying, I'm earning more at Bristol than I ever did at Leeds. And Leeds were the equivalent of Man City at that time. So those days are gone. Now, we can't hold on to our best players because they want to go as soon as a Premier League club is interested and they know the money they're getting. And Tommy knows exactly what Scotty's getting because they live together or used to. So no, it's not a question. We have to do the sort of thing, and I don't say I hate to mention them, but they're an example of what can be done with absolutely nothing, even though I take on board Neil's point about they haven't got our overheads, and that's Luton.
Yeah.
So you need to do what they do. In every year or so, there's a club that do that. And when I look around at some of the clubs, the number of clubs that are doing okay now, where their manager was going to get the sack had we beaten them. So you've got Wagner at Norwich. When we played them and they beat us 2-1 at the gate, the word was if we won that game, he was going.
Yeah.
Ryan Lowe at Preston. He was on his bike if we'd have beaten him at Preston. He made the substitutions. The rest is history. And they've had some good runs since, although I think they got beat today. So it's just a matter of what offer we get and what is acceptable to the board. They won't give players away for dafty money. You know, if somebody comes along and says about Conway, well, here's a couple of million quid, take it or leave it, they'll leave it. So we'll just have to wait and see. Like you, Simon, we've got Max Bird already coming in. Stokes and Murphy will be starting the season with the first team squad pre-season, both of them. They'll both be fit and raring to go. I mean, Stokes is still playing every week. Murphy's finished his gym work now and he's out on the grass. And the other player that's coming in is Seb Palmer-Holden. So who's
But
been out
all
on
of
loan?
those, Ian, all of those that you've mentioned there, it's good that they're coming and what have you, but they're not going to elevate us. And we can talk about this. We're going to talk about this every pod.
But you don't know that, Dave. I mean, for me, it's about the overall strength and overall balance of the club. Yeah. And if you bring those players in, then okay, you've got a situation with where we can't sign marquee signings. We're just not good. It's not going to happen. So unless we sell. So if we sell, or if we can get the players we want, we might be able to get players on loan. What if we could get another Tammy Abraham signing on loan at £1 million a year wages? Yeah. Now that's something that we could do.
Yeah, I think marquee signings, I'll be honest, I would call Jason Knight a marquee signing at £2.5 million. Annie, let's have your view on this, right? How do we break out? Somebody ran a thread, nothing to do with us. It was not a Bristol City fan, but Bristol City, the most boring club in the Championship, alongside Preston. And as they say, the Championship is the top 11, the bottom 11, and Bristol City and Preston nestled right there in the middle. And our owner has had his fingers burnt in the sense of the amount of money that he spent. He's pulled the cords together. He's not just having an open wallet. How do we change? Is it loan players? Yeah, because as Ian has said, a number of under-21s are moving on. Is there another Alex Scott in the current under-18s? And is there a window of a season where we're waiting for the next batch of under-18s to get an extra year, 18 months, and we do Prem loans to plug that gap, and we hope we find a Tammy Abraham or something like that? What's the answer? How do we break out of this malaise? I'll call it that, because that's what it is.
Look, I don't think we can do too much more. Neil mentioned the parachute payments, and we have to create our own parachute payments in a way. We have to sell our best players for extortionate prices. That's the only way we're going to compete with those top Premier League level clubs, and who are getting in ridiculous incomes on a monthly basis. So it's really, really difficult, and a lot of clubs have tried it, and we've seen examples of it working. We've seen Brentford doing it absolutely brilliantly. Perfectly, and towards the back end of it, Brentford they spent a lot of money. They didn't just spend 1 million, 2 million on players. They spent 5 million on Iwan Toney. I think Brian Mbeumo came in for a lot of money, and Saman Ghoddos.
And that's because they sold the likes of Ben Rama, Ollie Watkins, and people like that. They traded Mope,
Konza. They did it for like 5-6 years, and a lot of that was not just academy and bringing players through. And we're quite lucky because we've got a lot of players who are playing on a regular basis for us, who came to our academy and have been picked out and have made themselves a first team regulars. And that's not always going to happen. We have to get our recruitment absolutely bang on, and that's not going to happen overnight. That's not going to happen because of a change in manager. That's going to be something that's long term. That's going to be something. If City aren't doing it at the moment, then something's really wrong, because we've known for absolutely ages that Bristol City have to get their recruitment right. That's the only way we're going to compete with these top sides in the division. And we can't go out there and spend a load of money on the likes of, I don't know, Elliot Sims has been mentioned in the chat. We can't spend that sort of level of money without our
8 or 9 million. I think Ellis Sims was that sort of money, and they lost at home to Cardiff today, didn't they? 2 own goals, but there we go. It's a difficult one, and I'm sure
you have to keep the process going. You just have to keep the process going. It just has to it has to be a long-term thing. If it doesn't work one summer, that doesn't mean it's not going to work the next summer. It's one of those things where it's a long-term project, and I know we're sick and tired of hearing it's a long-term thing, but with recruitment like this, it's a long-term thing, and that's just. And Dave is right. Recruitment has improved, but it's got to be a long-term thing. It can't be just one summer where Jason Knight comes in for a couple of million quid and then we sell him for 5 million. That's not done. We've got to keep it. We've got to keep it going.
I want to come on to Jason Knights. I want to come on to Mark, and then we need to wrap up. So, Ian, I'll let you come in with a final point, but then I need to wrap it up. But Mark, what is the way forward? Because when Tommy's gone, which you assume he does go, will Pring go as well? But there's no big potential player coming through that's going to get us an 8-figure deal at the moment, is it? By that I mean, well, that's 10 million. Yeah.
Well, City, like other Championship clubs, have got to recruit well and look for players. I mean, the last 5 or 6 years, of course, we got Adam Webster. But we wouldn't be spending 3.5 million on a defender, but we were able to get someone like Adam Webster from Ipswich. He was only there a couple of seasons, most disrupted by injury, and he went on to have an outstanding season for us, and we sold him for 20 million. That's going to be the way. We're going to have to pay small amounts of money, improve players. There's a limit to what you can do with your own academy. This conveyor belt of talent. You've got to shop around in Ireland, in Europe, and just find players who will fit into your style of play. You've got to find a style of play and get the players to fit that. Who will take the club forward, but they will be people you haven't heard of. We've gone because of COVID and because of the FFP. The days are gone of big signing, but spending 8 million on Thomas Callas. I mean, he went. It was at the end of his contract. He went to Schalke, didn't he? And Gigi.
Well, he went. The players that went for nothing. You see, look, that's key things there. Like Fam cost us money, went for no residual value at all. Callas the same. You look at the players that we've sold. Casey Palmer, another one. Well, all that little clutch of players, they all came in. And then if you look at these sell-ons, right, we're not going to get anything. We're not going to get. I would imagine we have one for Webster, but his star is.
He's had injuries. Lloyd Kelly's out of contract.
We're not going to get a sell-on for Lloyd Kelly.
No, well, that's just unlucky. We can't do anything about that, David. Can you? Brownhill.
What's his name? Josh Brownhill. Well, yeah. Probably our best possibility of a sell-on is Antoine Semenyo, and if they paid us 9.5 million. Somebody probably, if he gets I'll say 3 more goals between now and the end of the season, somebody might pay 20 million, for Semenyo. And what would we be on? 20% of the difference. So what?
I've been so pleased that he's made it in the Premier League. Well, I say he's made it. I mean, he's scored some great goals and challenged that energy and aggression that we saw some flashes of down here. I mean, he was a little bit inconsistent, but he was a game changer of a player. We just don't have that. And that's why he went for 10 million. But we're just going to have to spend some small amounts of money, improve those players, and sell them on, because that's the world that we live in, David. We might get 2 seasons out of a player if the team performs well, and then they'll be on their way. But if he improves Bristol City before they leave, and if we get enough players at the right time, they'll improve us enough to get in the playoffs, and hopefully we get in the Premier League. Then our financial worries are over. Aren't they?
No, well, I think if we had 2 successive seasons in the Premier League, it would be very happy days. Ian, final point from you before we wrap up. Yeah,
just in response to a question I picked up off here, where I think it was Darm said, "Do the Lansdowns really want Premier League football?" My God, they want it more than anybody. So Steve's put in 267 million. We've lost 84 million in the last 3 financial years. I'm sorry, but they want it. I mean, I want it desperately. I'd love to have it in our lifetime, Dave. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, 68.
He would like it in his lifetime. Both of them.
Us older guys. So yeah, I mean, please God, we see it. But they want it more than anybody, because that's the only way. I mean, that's the only way they're going to sell the club. If we were in the Premier League, we'll sell the club, and for a large amount of money, because of the facilities and all the rest of it. And if it's hang on. If it's American people, they love the franchise model, as they call it, as well. So they love the fact we got rugby, basketball, and the women's team, and whatever else we got. So let's hope. But I mean, my view is let's get through to the end of the season. Let's see how many of these games we can win, and let's see if we can improve on the averages of our last 8 seasons, because the averages haven't been fantastic.
No,
you know,
haven't.
our average position is 15th. The average number of goals is 58. The average number of points is 59. So, you know, let's not get all excited and think about a time that never was.
Okay. Annie, great to have you on for the first time. And if you'd like to come on again, then this won't be the last, all right? So I've got your details now. You've got ours. Mark, Ian, and Neil sat here with me. Good to have you on as well. As always, we'll be doing our Sunderland review at 6 o'clock on Saturday, when, you know, I take a point now just to keep the run going, then with 2 home games to look forward to. But what's left of the Easter weekend, and if you're back at work this week, have a good one. And everybody, thanks ever so much for listening. All the best to you all. Cheers now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers all.